In this episode of Get Some ServiceNow, I'm speaking with Fred Champlain from ServiceNow. He's an Agile evangelist. This is a really fun episode, and I hope that you enjoy this. Fred, thank you very much for joining me here on the show. Just a little bit of a brief introduction to our audience. So your role at ServiceNow has the title of being an Agile evangelist. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how you got into that role and what that entails, what you sort of do in that role for ServiceNow?
Yeah, sure, Tim. Great to be here with you. I joined ServiceNow about 2.5 years ago. I came in with a background from a consulting and advisory type role. I was with IBM previously in the business services, global business services, IBM consulting now realm. I've worked across numerous industries in my career, and I've been around a lot of digital and business transformation work. A lot of program delivery, a lot of agile delivery, again, spanning multiple industries, as well as some federal government as well. So, my background from an agile evangelist perspective from agile goes back into the 90s, wherever you want to think about agile starting in those days, emerging from object-oriented technologies, and as we evolved into .com and accelerated from there. So, in various capacities, I've been around Agile, been practicing Agile for quite a while. So an opportunity arose with ServiceNow in the growth of our business unit, strategic portfolio management, really to join ServiceNow. I'd only really previously used ServiceNow as an end user at multiple, client sites, requesting a laptop, all the usual type of request type things. So it's really been a blast to be part of what ServiceNow is at this point in the growth and the success, but really it's exciting from the solutions that we're providing and the problems that we're solving for our customers. So very exciting to be able to bring my Agile background, really is greater around digital transformation and business transformation, all the parts and pieces, including enterprise architecture, which is another area that we're investing heavily in right now. And really that's critical, of course, from a transformation perspective. That's where you run into a lot of blockers and issues, of course, as you're doing your planning. It seems to emerge from the pesky architects at times. So in any case, that's just a little bit of a background. Prior to IBM, I was with Microsoft. I was an engagement manager, did a lot of delivery of early technology adoptions as well. So I've been in application development, architecture. I've done infrastructure, networks. Was in early days of security, so cybersecurity. I was a CISSP at one point. So I've kind of in my career covered a lot of different sides of the technology equation. I really enjoy the role today of really being able to work with companies holistically, because that's where the platform is at, right? We're spanning everything from SecOps to ITSM service management, operations. I think about things like telemetry coming back into architecture, telemetry to value streams. I've worked in product management with product management coaching. So for me, it's really a great opportunity to bring all of that together into ServiceNow and to SPM.
Wow, so your background's very broad in the area there. One of the things that you talked about there, the enterprise architecture area that you said you're moving into, that's with the SPM product, is it? What's that? I'm interested in that.
Yeah, sure. So it was formerly known as Application Portfolio Management. So in September, we formally not only named it or renamed it as Enterprise Architectures as a product, but we also expanded it. So the opportunity for ServiceNow is, as we have CMDB, of course, is the underlying, the entire platform, is increasingly there's value to modeling directly on the platform. Because by having models of our enterprise architecture, it will then enable us to one, consume some of those models and the information as we build from an AI perspective. But it's also increasingly, and we know this from transformations, that architecture is so critical to the strategic planning of any kind of business, of achieving a business objective, let alone a technical objective. So bringing that into the platform as the platform's growing is a natural direction for us. And being able to then feed that architecture and inform that architecture with telemetry, right? Feedback, which is something that isn't a current practice today. But when you're sitting there on the platform and you have all the operational data that you could ever think about of how to validate or invalidate or adjust and learn from for a new architectural pattern, maybe in microservices, container performance, whatever it might be that you want to look at improving, what a beautiful ecosystem to have that right at hand. So there's also another perspective from a business modeling perspective, as increasingly we're moving in enlarging our scope from IT into industries, into businesses, lines of businesses, and we think about the shift from into product based approaches, right? So if you're planning more as products, a value stream aligned, that's a big theme in transformation as well from a portfolio management perspective. So we really see that there's a confluence and tremendous value from having a business modeling, value stream modeling, enterprise architecture, along with business architecture on the platform. So you'll see us trend in that direction. Obviously, it's an established market. And we'll develop, I think, value that's unique to the platform over time. As I mentioned, as you think about those models being there for AI to consume and to use as a leverage to bring that data together as we think about scenario planning in the future, for
And
example.
so, and does this sort of fit then, if I think about the CSDM model, that into that design quadrant, that business planning design quadrant? So you'd leverage SPM and the enterprise architecture capability models in that area.
Exactly. So what we're doing today is setting our direction to take Archimate, which is kind of the underlying standard, if you will, for modeling from largely from TOGAF, open group, and really be able to build from that perspective, but really store it in CMDB. So we are directly natively taking those models and storing them in CMDB, right? So it's consistent with the platform, readily available. So you make an update to a model, it's available anywhere dynamically across the platform. So very powerful. So if you can think about like digital product release, for example, which is a fairly recent capability that was released, that we can start to look at, well, maybe there's an architecture pattern that we want to monitor from a release perspective, or we want to know some versioning. We want to look at our DevOps change, DevOps insights. We want to associate that to some of our modeling and some of our development, right? You think about the low code capabilities on the platform, application engine. We're really bringing together a very powerful ecosystem. When you think about applying that to AI, not just Gen AI, but last month we brought our first AI agents kind of early release to market. So, agentic AI agents, autonomous agents as we move into the future. All of that's going to be critically important on the platform of how do you plan, how do you govern, how do you design with AI in mind. So if you think about the platform as really being an AI-enabled business transformation platform, or I'd go even further to say it's an AI transformation platform to run your business on. These are all the ecosystem components that will be emerging as we bring together enterprise architecture, business architecture, along with operations. So you really start to see that rich end-to-end next generation start to emerge.
Yeah, what you said there with the platform being like an AI transformation platform, that's one of the benefits I see of ServiceNow is just a heavy integration with AI in there. I mean, it pops up in all of the product suites. I saw a presentation probably a year ago with one of the FSM reps over here in New Zealand, and they finished. They had a big bunch of clients there for an evening, and they were just talking and showing some of the things that FSM could do with AI. And at the end of the talk, the guy who's presenting, he just said something really sort of stuck with me, and he said, "Look, the reason you should be going with ServiceNow is because we're investing heavily in AI, and it will be all through our platform." And it really dawned on me that is a huge benefit if you're, because you've got that, as you're saying, that broad platform. It's going all across the enterprise, and now you've got the ability to utilize AI right across the business there. It's great.
Absolutely, Tim. It's fantastic, actually. Also, keep in mind, we've got Integration Hub. So if you think about the platform, it's an integration hub. We have some new technology called Data Fabric We also have something that goes along with that called zero copy, the idea that we're really advancing in terms of actual integration of large amounts of data. So we're able to consume and also pull in and actually work and integrate with other LLMs. So while we have native LLMs that we've invested in and that are trained on the platform, we also provide the capability, for example, out to Microsoft Azure and AWS, other hyperscaler platforms for LLMs. And you'll see that extend into agents as well over time, where we're really the platform of AI platforms and capabilities. That's one of the keys, is that we have a strategy that really brings together being able to be the, if you will, the meta AI platform amongst all these agents and all these other LLMs, and bringing that together again to be the business transformation or the AI transformation of, if you will, next generation business, AI driven business.
Is there, from your perspective, is there any real competitor to ServiceNow when you look at it at that holistic level?
My bets are obvious, right? I don't think so, right? I
No, I
think
don't.
we're absolutely positioned to really bring this to fruition faster than any other company. The parts and pieces are there. There's been AI investment from ServiceNow. It's just not a new thing. It's been ongoing and has been a strategy, part of the strategy all along. We're just now seeing the acceleration, you know, kind of an exponential sense of that. So the days of AI to AI are essentially here, right? You'll see that on the platform. So I think about this as we're in first generation, we're early in the game, very early in the game. But what you'll see is this is really AI to AI at cyber speed, right? The types of decision making that eventually we'll see from autonomous AI agents. There's a body of work out in the manufacturing world that was done in the 80s and 90s. You know, holonic agents, the idea that you have autonomous enabled agents. You combine that with event-driven fabrics, right? You think about Kafka and event streaming. You think about choreography and orchestration patterns. You think about the direction of our technology is we're really trying to build components, right? That's been the success of cloud is component technology, being able to use fine-grained structures, microservices. It's all in the ability to scale. So the platform is all primed for this, and to really be able to take leverage of all of this and provide that AI to AI execution environment that really has the ecosystem span out to ERP systems and across supplier networks and, you know, value networks, right? So I just had a talk recently of introducing a concept of a value fabric, which is really that event-driven, highly componentized approach to value. And we think about what's really happening if you could visualize the platform today, but even in a couple of years, and you think about, wow, could I actually see the flow on a particular instance of a customer's enterprise platform? It would be fascinating to see that, you know, kind of real-time Sankey type diagrams, right, or visualizations. I think as you see that, we'll see a preponderance of AI to AI to AI kind of conversations going on, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's the possibilities are really quite amazing with what you could get AI to be doing for you. When you're talking with clients, are they getting it? Are they ready for AI, or are they still sort of just being blown away by it's all happening too quickly? You know, where is the market?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, like any new technology, there's a spectrum of adoption, right? I mean, you have your early adopters, you have your very early adopters are willing to invest. I mean, kind of Gen AI is old news to them at this point, but what we're seeing is a rapid acceleration, right? Gen AI itself feels kind of old. The novelty, I would say, is what, you know, has maybe worn off a little bit. Now the game is on to really leverage it, get value out of it, and that'll be an ongoing effort, right? And so I think that certainly there's some companies that are still, a lot of companies are not clear about where to go. They may be in some kind of AI, or I'm sorry, innovation with AI, right? They may have an innovation lab that however they do their innovation, whether it's formal or not, they may be confident, they may have less confidence. And then there's probably laggards that are just for one reason or another aren't able to quite capitalize at this point. And that's okay. That's always the case in any kind of technology adoption. It was true in cloud as well. And there's easy answers, right? Go to ServiceNow. You've got an AI platform, so you
Mm.
can really solve that. So from our perspective, we can help those customers and those prospective customers that we can bring their AI game to them. So that's a big challenge. And we can also service the early adopters that recognize the value of AI to AI and where agents are going to go, and the value of data, right, has never been understated. AI is absolutely critically dependent on having all that data and the LLMs available. So you think about RAG as well to integrate. We have all those components. So this has been a very strategically structured platform play to become the AI transformation, the AI business platform.
That's one thing you mentioned then, just RAG. I encountered that the other day watching a ServiceNow video, but can you just give us the acronym and explain what that is for people who might not know about that? Because that context awareness is very cool.
Yeah, RAG is really the technology that allows you to integrate other sources into LLMs, right? So retrieval augmented generation, right? So that's the idea. And I there's different strategies around that, but the bottom line is that you want to be able to pull in and integrate from other sources when you're working with an LLM, and that's the technology that allows you to do this retrieval. So it could be a data lake that you're hitting. It could be a particular backend system. There's a lot of strategies that people are coming up with of, well, what do those different architecture patterns look like just for LLMs? So RAG is a really critically important part of that architecture landscape. And all the major platforms have this capability now. So it's a matter of, when you get in underneath the components and LLM vectorizing, and RAG plays a key role in making that information available when you're building your LLM. So we have that capability. We can go LLMs and directly to other LLMs. So that the key is opening up all avenues, if you will, Tim, in terms of being able to access that information. So RAG is a key technology for that. And has been used you'll see that used increasingly, I think, as we continue to open up the aperture.
So it seems at this stage we've made the move from the initial adoption of AI. Now ServiceNow is doing a big focus on being able to reach out, integrate, and grab information from anywhere, and then be able to use that within ServiceNow for you.
Yeah.
I get the feeling, and I wonder if you agree, that I get the feeling that a way that ServiceNow will likely evolve is that it will become far more proactive. It can do so much more on its own for you, and so now it'll do a lot of that work for you, managing issues with networks, first detecting the issue, then managing the issue for you, and now just being that proactively alerting you to what you need to know. I can kind of see in a couple of years' time ServiceNow being just more of an agent helper for work, me doing less work in ServiceNow, it just telling me what I need to know, keeping me updated, that sort of thing.
Tim, there's no doubt that's the horizon, right? I mean, that there's a lot of power there. And you think about maybe a particular use case, you think about workflows and about, we're usually thinking about like value streams, whether it's a development or like a DevOps related value stream, or a whole business or operational value stream, right? We're always thinking about how do you optimize that? How do you optimize the flow of your value streams, right? A big topic. So sometimes those changes need, the improvements in code. You can imagine taking Star Coder's example of a technology that ServiceNow is invested in, being able to generate code from a agentic AI perspective to address a particular issue and a bottleneck, and resolve a bottleneck, or at least propose that. Now, right now, we would, I'm hypothetically speaking right now, but you would propose that and want a human in the loop. And I think that's going to be important. We can talk about that, the human in the loop and responsible AI as well, because these really go hand in hand. But the idea is, though, that we could address that and generate code and generate the testing, right?
Yeah.
And that all has a potential on the platform. to do that. So I think as we look at that, what is that efficiency, and how do we free up humans to do the real work that needs, human reasoning, human judgment. I think that's part of the game, right? That's really when we're talking about that. And at some point, sure, we'll see evolution that gets more sophisticated, but that's way out, I think. And I think that's going to be it's not just a technology evolution, it's obviously a social and cultural evolution that needs to happen before we're really, I don't think we're all going to be kicking back, 20 years from now. Maybe we'll be just, waking up and having coffee and seeing what the AI is doing today. I don't know. But right now we have a long road to however that happens, to get there. And so it's easy to talk about the growth of the platform, and we are fantastically positioned, and we have a vision that I think beats any other vision I've seen in terms of what the future state of business looks like. But we also have to acknowledge, how do you get there? What are those steps? And you asked a great question earlier, like, what's it like right now? What were our CTOs, CIOs, technology and business leaders thinking about AI? It's not a clear path. I mean, one of the answers is, you have to build your agility as an organization, both technology-wise and culturally, to adapt. So I think there's a lot of challenges for companies to get there. And to some degree, the work that we all have done previously around Agile and Agile transformations, to some folks seems like old news, and it might be. But what we've really found out is that's just table stakes to really be able to leverage AI technologies. They're going to move fast. We've seen how fast Gen AI has moved. It's going to continue to accelerate. So that's the challenge question right there, is how do you do that? How do you do that with the speed to market from a competitive perspective, right? So I think that's what we'll see next is, who are the super accelerators in a marketplace? And that is going to bring a different level of competition in certain fields, obviously fields that are high technology based. I think it'll be one of the impacts on the market. So as we talk about the technology and the wonderful opportunities and positions and components about that, and the governance of AI that we can bring, we also have to keep in mind, what does it mean, from AI, human in the loop? What does it mean from an AI governance and AI responsibility, as well? So we need to think about, what was responsible AI, ethical AI, and bring that into the equation as well. So I think that it's a balanced approach. No doubt the technology is fast moving. It's going to equip us like nothing else that we've seen. And the question is, how do you take advantage of it? Taking advantage of the platform as an accelerator is a fantastic strategy for a lot of companies. And I think we'll continue to see that, hence, a lot of the growth of the company ahead of us.
Yeah, I imagine that a lot of companies still haven't really adopted Agile, and while they might adopt it for a project, I could imagine actually ServiceNow going in and being done as an Agile project, but the company itself and its culture has no concept of being Agile around that, and sort of it flares up for one project and then dies away again. And I've previously worked with a partner here in New Zealand, and we made a real move to become Agile, where we recognized, our CEO recognized that, hey, we don't really know this. We got someone in, a specialist, to help us in that field. And we made a real change. We really took time to look at what we were doing, look at what customers wanted, and meet and figure out, how do we take these things, incrementally improve, and understand that we're not going to do these big bang release things anymore. We're going to just get things over time. That I like to think of as the creeping death of Agile, just like that mold that grows, and before you know it, there's all these bits and pieces that are done. So yeah. I think there's a lot of organizations still to really make that move, just to still people and teams working in very structured, siloed roles, not reaching out and becoming more amorphous and nimble, and being able to work on a project or a problem here and then roll over to something else very flexibly. Is it something that you're encountering with organizations still struggling with that sort of thing, or are you seeing more and more now already, like you're saying, at that level where they've got an understanding and they're already making those steps towards being an Agile organization rather than just doing an Agile project?
Great question. In my role, I'm fortunate to see the spectrum. I see kind of all the above, right? There's organizations that may have tried Agile at a team level. They may have tried it in a scaled level, and all it takes is one visionary leader to leave for some reason. And I've also seen where efforts have collapsed. So, and they start again. And it takes a lot of companies, several attempts or tries to sort out what does that mean for the organization to quote unquote adopt Agile. And it's, one of the hints is it's way more than just Agile. Obviously, we know it's cultural, but it's just people and it's, emotions, it's transitions of those emotions to those emotions, all of that complex landscape. It can be done, of course, right? And it's done very successfully, but it takes several tries for some organizations to sort it out. So I see AI as kind of being yet another driver that eventually companies will say, oh, in order to leverage this technology, we got to figure out how to crank the wheel faster, right? We got to get a new flywheel. And how do we do that, from iterative? And it naturally comes back to, well, you kind of going to be pushed in that direction that you got to make small bets. You got to do them quick. You got to learn from them quick. Of course, that's the underlying of an Agile equation, if you will. And I think that will just become the natural thing. Now, some companies will always struggle with that. It's cultural to a large degree as well. And we'll just continue to see differentiation in the marketplace. Those companies may become different types of companies over time. Obviously, there's all kinds of stats we could cite, since the year 2000, how many Fortune 500 companies are still listed versus ones that have merged or dropped out for some reason or just gone out of business, right? So it doesn't seem possible, but it is. There's a lot of companies that are, their bets are off and they can't execute for whatever reason. That really won't change, but I do think that AI will amplify what the stakes are. And it will also probably accelerate the timeline of what it means to decisions, right? It's what we're really doing, Tim, is we're accelerating decision making, and it is all stems from competitive advantage. Ultimately, right, is the business agility. How do you track to market? How do you track your customers to revenue? And doing that on a sustainable basis. So, like any technology, new technology, you're going to see another spectrum, a spread of the winners and the losers, if you will. You don't have to be a loser, but it's culturally, it sometimes places get bogged down, right? That's humans in the loop. Human in the loop might not be so good sometimes in that regard, but look, it's necessary, right?
I think here, like you said before, we had the explosion of the web and the internet and all that sort of technological change. But with AI, I think it's such a multiplier that if you do adopt early, there's a very good chance that you will be springboarded way ahead from those who don't, and those who don't may not go further. It might be more like a filter in a way, adopt or die.
I think there's always the case. And I think there's always hope that if you're right now, today, your organization isn't able to leverage for one reason or another, there'll be someone else that comes along and sees the opportunity. So I also think that the AI brings a new game for those organizations that need to catapult themselves for one reason or another, right? So I do think it's going to also change that dynamic. It's not that if you're a laggard today that you're destined to necessarily fall off the edge. You might, but it also opens up new opportunities as well. So that's the interesting play here. And I do think that people invest early, that figure this equation out. They know they're early adopters. They have a whole, formal way to look at their technology, selection of technology, and leverage it from an innovation pipeline, innovation strategy. And clearly, they are well positioned, and they will always have a good positioning. There's almost always an agile, a very nimble agile approach. They may have their own way of funneling and deciding what to invest in, what to kill, what to pivot on, of course. But some companies just don't have that, or they've got it so fragmented. So I do see that span. Back to your question, though, I do see quite a spectrum there. But I think that AI is going to be an interesting game as well, right? It won't be so much that, we fell off, or we'll have to catch the next wave of technology. Sometimes used to be the thinking, we kind of missed that one. We'll get the next one. Well, you're going to be out of business, or you're just going to have to use it and leverage yourself and propel forward, right? So I think this whole idea, we're going to see a lot of non-linear things, happen as well. So much more accelerated, non-linear in some cases.
Yeah, I get that feeling with AI. Just even with things that I do in a limited capacity that I use AI, for generating thumbnails for videos and for generating posts on X and descriptions for videos from a script that I might have. It's just such a time saver. It just makes you so much more efficient. and I think in almost any organization, there's got to be an amount of work that is done, which could be improved dramatically by adopting AI to help with that work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
So, is there anything in particular in the future that you're really looking forward to, or you're working on, or just a continuation of what we've been talking about? Or
Well, I think what we just covered is a pretty good chunk for the next
yeah,
couple of years, right? I'm excited by it, obviously. This type of landscape has been in my mind for quite a while, and seeing the tooling come together to begin to approach how do you do this from a technology perspective, knowing, and I think again, I'm excited also because there's all kinds of challenges and opportunities to recreate and really redefine how businesses operate. And so I think about the people involved, right? I'm involved, you're involved, right? What does that mean from a human experience perspective, and how do we do this in a way that's positive as well? So kind of back to responsible AI and AI ethics, and it kind of falls in, and I could go on about that around AI explainability. How are we going to, as humans, comprehend what some of these future AI to AI transactions are, for example? I'm kind of probably a geek, certainly at heart, and I want to see and solve some of those future problems. I think in the end that we have tremendous opportunities for benefit. You get a little philosophical around benefit to society. I think there's a lot of concerns, of course, we all have as well. How does this actually play out? There's a lot of negative use cases you can think of, or damaging use cases. But I think that the potential, though, that what we can do in the future is so powerful, and I want to be part of it. Right, it's going to be a fun next era. We're just starting it, and we know this is going to be the next major game. It's pretty exciting stuff to be a part of.
it is. It's interesting stuff. It really is. Oh,
Yeah,
look, yeah. Hey, look, Fred. Thank you very much. It's been a really interesting talk. I've really enjoyed it.
likewise, Tim. Good to share with you. Good to catch up and chat a bit around this, and love to talk to you in the future.
Oh yeah, look, the same. I'll keep in touch, and I'll continue to check out some of the podcasts. How often are you on them? Because I notice you're not the host on them, but I've seen you on or listened to you on a couple of them.
Well, I've sort of, in theory, will start hosting that behind in our production for this month, but maybe we'll reciprocate, right? So it's something that we're sorting out. It's a rather small audience right now in terms of our podcast, Enterprise Agility podcast, and we've had various hosts and guests on, and I think as we think about for 2025. Anticipate that we'll do a lot more external folks that we're talking to within the ServiceNow ecosystem, or even more broadly in the agile transformation and digital and AI transformation space as well. I'd like to open the aperture up and really bring other folks of different backgrounds and interest. And there's so much happening, right? There's an endless number of topics to have interesting chats about.
It's part of the reason why I've started up this GetSome channel, is just that there is so much information out there about ServiceNow. It's really difficult to actually get a good handle on some of the topics unless you've got a month to sit down and read and digest all the documentation and do the training and all that. I'm putting together a course on ACLs, and it's been weeks of scouring the developer site and the community site and everywhere to just grab snippets of information to pull them all together into one sort of a resource. But it's been weeks of work, and that's just one topic, and it's an old topic. It's ACL. So then you imagine trying to get the handle on all the AI capability and then all the SPM capability. It's a lot of work.
So I've got some ideas around how to address that, but one of the biggest challenges I think that ServiceNow has isn't the technology pieces. It's how do we share all this information in a way that it can be consumed by customers and partners, and frankly, internally. It's growing at such a rate, which is fantastic. of course, but how do you
Neuralink. We
all
might have to
this?
use Neuralink.
Neuralink, that's right. Maybe maybe there's a license that goes out there. No, but what I do think is I've got ideas that some internal things around. Well, how do we do this? How do you achieve this? Because traditional channels, you still need them, but there's other ways that we need to go about doing this, right? We need to share this information in context of what we want to do, and that is transform businesses using AI. So what does it mean? Tell me a story,
Yeah.
have some personas, and be able to actually storyfy so that I can at least comprehend what the heck we're talking about. What's the end game from a business perspective, not all this cool technology stuff, right? And so
And,
that's the bottom line.
yeah, and contextually aware, proactive use of AI within the platform. So if
Yeah,
I'm an administrator and let's say I'm working on business rules and ACLs, then in the corner, I've got the ServiceNow inbuilt agent going, oh, it looks like you're trying to do that. I could suggest this code for you. I could suggest that for you. And no, shut
right.
up. I'm not interested now. Or it could be, I'm working the CMDB. I'm an ITOM guy, and it's just telling me, like, oh, you're looking in this area. Are you interested in this? Or I'm noticing this going on. Just far more proactive. That I
Yeah.
see as value. There is so much information and value sitting in ServiceNow at any one time, but unless it's presented to me, well, I don't know it's there, or I might not know where to look
Right.
for it, yet it could be very beneficial to the next step I'm doing right now, which is trying to answer this question for my boss about some issue we've got over here in this data center. That, to me, I feel like is a big step forward for ServiceNow to become aware, I guess.
I agree, and it's a couple things going on. Is the complexity just of the natural growth of the platform and the rate, the things that we're doing. You think about industry specific offerings, which is of course where we're expanding into, right? I mean, one of our challenges is moving beyond IT is the opportunity, right? That's a huge business opportunity. Is lines of businesses, global or general business services, right? And so you think about all of, well, what does legal services look like on the ServiceNow platform, and how does that play out? And how does that play out in the age of AI, right? AI to AI negotiated contracts, perhaps, right? So you may end up in court as a lawyer in old style, human style, having to have some conversation, right? And what do you do with that, right? How do you say, oh, well, our AI decided that? Well, that's not going to hold in a couple of years. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you're going to have to defend that. So I think this is one example, but how do you comprehend the complexity from a technical perspective, to your point of like, okay, so which tools do I use for coding? Do I need to be coding? How do I wire up a workflow? Do I want to do that visually versus coding it today? Do I really care about coding it? I just want the results. So kind of let AI go off and do that for me. There's all kinds of things I think that we need to revisit, and think about. But
Yeah.
how do we convey all of this to people who are investing in the platform, people who are considering those investments, and all of our partner ecosystem about, well, how do you represent this as a partner? You may have a particular angle, you may have your offering, you may have some value add that's unique to your company, or you may just be an implementer, which all have tremendous value. But how do you keep up with this
Yeah.
and keep current? I mean, Tim, that's a huge, I think, growing challenge for any company like ServiceNow. Our competitors have it. I think the hyperscalers have it. And it's like, how do you consume this? Well, the irony is, it's driven from an AI perspective, and the answer obviously lies somewhere in applying AI to help us out. So
Exactly. Part of the solution to that problem, I think, is not having the people consume it, and instead having the information they thought they needed to know to achieve something, have the platform achieve that thing for them.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so now I don't need to know that technical aspect, because that part actually just happens smoothly as part of this workflow, which I've used AI to generate. So I never needed to learn that. Yeah.
exactly. And what if you have the ability as a business platform to say, here's my OKRs, here's my objectives. And by the way, I may have AI help me find, identify, and prioritize those business objectives, right? And say, okay, well, here's my business that's modeled, right, in enterprise architecture, and it's got business modeling, value streams, products, and customer journeys, which we didn't talk about specifically, but it's all about customer interactions for human-led, interactions. How do we capture all that? Well, we'll have all that there. So it's like, I want this objective give me some options, tell
Yeah.
me which option, and go execute it,
Yeah.
right? Now that does get interesting. How far are we away from that? It depends, right? I mean, it could be a couple of years, it could be 5 years, 10 years out. I don't think it might be that far out, right? I mean, it's going to be like, okay, what does it mean to run a business here? Because now you can say, dear AI, you take that a step further and say, business acquisitions, should I divest? All the classic strategy related things like, here's my strategy. My goal is here. Tell me what I should do. Well, maybe we have AI agents that go out and look at opportunities in the marketplace and say, consider acquiring this product because of the pricing, the price advantage, and reshape your company. I think we will get there at some point, and it'll include, oh, here's some business process transformations that we need to look at. We need new business processes, new rules. It may be human led for a while. It may be eventually AI driven. These are the things that I think it'll take time. It's easy to put these concepts out there, but it's the humans. We have to comprehend these opportunities. We have to fund them. We have to agree on them. We have to get aligned on them. So it's not like this will come, exactly tomorrow. But if you don't have that vision, you don't have that kind of opportunities and think about, well, from a thought perspective of what is the potential, what's the art of the potential, you've got to have these conversations that really lead and open up the pathways to, well, how could we do that, right? It's that innovation, the unique pivots that I think we'll see more unique pivots moving forward, actually.
I think ServiceNow is already demonstrating some of that. When you look at the ability to go from text to workflow, some of the examples I've seen of that, already, the text to application where it'll create for you the workflow, it'll create the tables, it'll create the catalog items and all of that sort of thing. That's effectively a digital product that you've created from text. Now you evolve that a little bit further, and as you say, you ask the AI to suggest, we should probably build a product that looks like this. Okay, go and do that, build that, and now you've got an app developed for all the major mobile phones, and you just push it out. You do some testing. The testing's all automated. You finally get some people to have a look at it. Yep, tweak this, tweak that. Something which we do today. We build these products, but now the time to deliver is just compressed dramatically. And I'm with you. I don't think that's far away.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it's terribly far away. And the other, I guess, as we're thinking about that, it's enabling and equipping humans in this loop as well. So at Knowledge this year, K24, I think I've seen it maybe prior to that, where you can draw like a simple diagram of a business process flow and actually pick up the image and translate it right into workflow, into code, right? So, another thing that we didn't necessarily talk about is like, but there's so many of those plays as well.
Yeah.
How do you leverage a human? How do you inject the human and amplify the human in the loop?
Yeah.
I think is another piece of this. And there's no shortage of this, right? We can talk about HR, we can talk about skills development, because if you're running a transformation, one of the biggest issues isn't the technology, it's back to the humans, but it's skills, right? You'll see HR people talking about this all the time, and we know this pragmatically. AI skills are very sought after right now, and companies are struggling with how do you do this, and the answer mostly is find some people and jumpstart and do it organically, just unless you've got a tremendous amount of budget, and some companies do. Certainly ServiceNow has invested heavily in AI talent, but we know that that's one of the limiting factors, and I think it will increase until we really understand, well, how do we leverage the AI to amplify the human capability? So yeah, a lot there to unpack, but doing that responsibly, doing that ethically, I think those are all factors as well about this. But look, the platform is going to be a natural setting for that, and so I think that my doubling, tripling down personally in terms of my drive for ServiceNow, absolutely. I think it's going to really be one of the very first platforms that brings it all together, unlike any other company, and certainly that's part strategy planning and foresight. Some of it, as always, is position in the market and what's happening, outside of your control. But I think it's a lot of things in favor of where ServiceNow is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Look, I know that you need to head off
Yeah.
soon. So, Fred, thanks very much. It's been great fun.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of fun, Tim.